Welcome to the Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Agenda day Thursday, June 20th, 2019. I appreciate your attendance. First thing we need to do is I need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0, and we are out of executive session. First thing we have is roll call, so if you please sign in. And we're all here. I would ask you to please stand for a brief invocation and pledge. Bow your heads, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this another opportunity to meet. And Lord, we ask that you would give us knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this great county. Anything that's accomplished, we'll give you the honor and glory in Christ's name. We do ask and pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated.
Sometimes it's easy.
All right. Do we have any announcements? Any announcements? I do want to announce to the citizens that our next meeting will be on Tuesday, July the 2nd. July the 4th is the next Thursday meeting that we would have had, so that meeting has been changed to July the 2nd, and that is on the calendar as such. I wanted to make that announcement to the general public. So don't come on July the 4th, come on July 2nd. All right. Any other announcements? All right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First up, we have minutes of the work session held on June 6, 2019. Are there any additions or deletions? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nix.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have minutes of the voting session held on June 6, 2019. Any additions or deletions? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. No one signed up for public comment in this particular section. Oh, I skipped the agenda. Let's do the approval of the agenda. I do have some changes to the agendas we need to add. As number 7, RFP number 338-19 Veterans Memorial Park. Number 8, contract assignment by Professional Probation Services. And number 9, FY 2020 Legacy Link contract.
Make a motion to approve the agendas as amended.
Okay. Motion to approve with the changes by Commissioner Satterfield.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nix. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Somebody had to move. Okay. And that's approved 4-0 with the changes. No one signed up in the comment at this particular time on that. We move on to zoning. Here are the rules that we will use in zoning. Planning Director will present the application and recommendation of the Planning Commission. We'll hear from the applicant. Then I will open that hearing. We'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. We'll hear from those who are opposed to the application. Our normal allotment of time is 10 minutes per side, but we will allow, according to our ordinance, 3 minutes a person maximum. So you'll have 3 minutes if you decide to speak on any of the zoning issues that we will be discussing tonight. 3 minutes, and that will be timed by our clerk and our county manager. Anyone who speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address. You can do that at the podium. And if you have donated $250 or more to any candidate, you will need to fill out a form stating so, and I have those forms here, if anyone needs that. All right, we'll go into, first one we have ZA 1905, Dawson Village Partners has made a request to rezone property located at tax map parcel 112019, 113057-002, 112109, 104-065, 104-028, 104-029, 112-018, and 104-027 from Commercial Highway Business, RA Residential Agriculture, RPC Residential Planned Community, CPCD Commercial Planned Community Development, COI Commercial Office Institution to Mixed Use Village. This was tabled from the May 16, 2019 voting session, at which time we did have a public hearing on this zoning request. It is my understanding that there have been some proposed changes to that application. Jameson, are you going to be presenting those, or starting it off, please?
So we, upon this application, we have, the applicant has indicated that there was needed to be changes or changes made based on the public hearings that were brought before you. We have reviewed those and have passed those out. I will let the applicant speak to those changes, but they are consistent with the updated rezoning application that they have provided us and the updated rezoning narrative.
Okay, come on.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jim King, 416 Overlook Circle, Dawsonville, Georgia, representing Etowah Village. We have, I don't know if y'all have these or not, but there you go.
Yeah.
Jim, give me one.
Hey,
I do.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Board, we have revised our plan based on the comments received from the last public hearing, as well as your comments. The changes that we made to the plan, we've taken out everything west of the Etowah River. That was seemed to be a point of a highly contentious point. The other thing we've done is remove the entrance from 53, from Highway 53. Remove the public entrance. We've made that entrance for emergency vehicle access only. It will be gated, and only emergency personnel will have a key to that gate.
Questions of the applicant?
One other thing, by taking out the west side of the river, that reduced our overall density from 2.8 units to the acre down to 2.4 units to the acre.
Questions?
Any changes to some of the things that were on the prior plan as far as the fire station up in the front? and-
Fire station's still there, yes, sir. Fire station, convention center,
Green space stays at, or green space is
30%.
30%.
yes, sir.
Which is a requirement anyway, mixed use.
That is correct.
Other questions?
Do you have anything so the audience can kind of see what you're doing? Any kind of,
Unfortunately, I don't, Ms. Foster.
If I can speak, this is actually included in the packet online, if you go to dawsoncounty.org.
but that's not.
So doing away
I
with,
do
the-
have some extra copies if some representative from the group would like to proceed, and I can do that. I have 3 copies.
doing away with the west side of the river obviously negates the need for the bridge
That's correct.
and negates the need for the traffic improvements that were being dictated at 53 and Etowah River Road.
That's correct. So it's really the exact plan that we had before, only we've removed
Everything
everything
west
west
of the
side.
river.
Yes, sir. and that connection to 53.
If you will, since you don't have any exhibit for people, just read this for people's sake out here. You know, Pod A retail, what's that gonna be? So people will know what all is on there. You don't mind.
And he just passed those around, he's got a flash.
I mean, it's really bad that you don't have anything that the people can see.
Can you pull
Oh, that
that
really
up?
bothers me.
Harmony is
I
actually going to
apologize for
see if she can get a PowerPoint for me with this on it.
Okay.
So we'll try to display it.
And how long will that?
She's on her way right now.
It was, the slide was a really large, it was like an 80 megabyte file. And I had to go
Is there still going to be a canoe launch on the property?
That was on the west side of the river, yes, ma'am. There was
So
a
that's done.
park and a canoe launch proposed on the west side of the river. And that's been taken off with the rest of the development.
Let's do numbers, like Pod D apartment. I know there's how many apartments? In Pod E, 55 plus apartments. And active adult, I guess housing, single family housing. I'd like to know the numbers.
Okay.
I get, the people out here would probably like to know the numbers.
And even the nursing care and assisted living.
Yeah.
Those are all on the application. Let's see if I can find it.
Did y'all people, do y'all know the application? Do y'all know, you know the numbers? The people, some of them know the numbers.
If I may make a suggestion, it sounds to me like there is a little confusion, and maybe it would be a good opportunity for us, since it was a large portion of this property that has been removed, and obviously they've shifted a few other things around, that we offer it back to another public hearing, and that way we have time to advertise it, that way everyone is on the same page, and you hear the concerns of the public that they have, and they'll have it in front of them before the meeting.
No, people need to know, this is gone, this is left out. But this is still here, but we're shifting this and we're changing this, you know. I mean, it's such a huge project. I mean, I think, you know, whether you're for it or against it, I still think you would like to have all the information.
Yeah.
Well, I would.
And I mean, if you want me to, I can go ahead and read down the list of the square footage.
Go ahead.
Retail space. So, we're looking at 338,000 square feet of retail service space. 243,200 square feet of Class A office space. We're still looking at a convention and performing arts center, a future site for a fire station, a cultural center and public awareness of the Chinese arts and gardens, 4-story hotel, 800 units of multifamily living, which would be the apartments that Commissioner Fawcett spoke to, 180 units of single-family attached homes, and a 350 unit continuing care retirement community center, 265 single-family detached homes, and 156 acres of preserved for parks and green space, which would make up their 30% of their open space that's required for our center.
Jameson, I'm sorry, but I missed single family. How many
I did too.
single family?
I'm sorry, 180 units of single-family attached homes.
While you're up here, can you discuss where the current zoning sits and what the future land use plan calls for, and how does this fit into that?
Sure, absolutely. So, all right, well, we have the area here. So essentially, everything from 400 really to where it gets its narrowest point is either commercial highway business, residential multifamily, or the other one was for the institutional that made up for the majority of that area, which was originally what was known as the Southern Catholic College. Beyond that, it was a number of uses, and the chairman mentioned all of those earlier.
I can read them again if you need me to.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
All right, so it's CHB, Commercial Highway Business, which is on the 400 side of that. If you're looking at, and this is current land use map. RA, Residential Agriculture, which is more toward the back portion of that. RPC, which is in that upper right-hand corner of that first little area there above the, I guess we're talking the first square area on the top side there. CPCD, which is Commercial Planned Community Development, and COI, which basically was the piece that was the former Catholic college. That's a current land use plan. That's what the current land use plan would allow, and as we discussed some the last meeting, a lot of the things that are in the pods that they're asking for fall within one of those currently zoned areas. May not be exactly where they were wanting to put it, but a lot of them fell within one of those zoning classifications, that they could do that actually without even being here to ask. The mixed-use village request, I think, basically was trying to make a more unified plan versus what I would call a potential hodgepodge of this here, dot, 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 dot. So, but what I would recommend to you, the board, is that there has been significant change to the original plan. And the fact that we already had a hearing on this last time that was on the entire plan, I would recommend the same thing that Jameson has already brought up to this board, is that we table this, have another public hearing to give people, as Commissioner Fawcett said, an opportunity to digest the change. Now, everything you see on the east side is pretty much what they presented the first day. Not much change to that at all. But in consultation with our council as well, council was also recommending that we have another public hearing in reference to the changes that are associated with this. So I would recommend to you, due to the changes, that we table this, advertise for another public hearing. It's my understanding it has to be advertised, is a 15-day advertisement, which will not fall within our June 2nd meeting, because that's only 12 days from now. So this would fall till June 18th, July 18th, for when the board would hear this again, and the public would have a second opportunity to come and speak. So that would be my proposal to you. What say you?
Well, I'll make a motion that that's what we do. I want the people to be, if you don't give them time, it's like you're trying to pull the wool over somebody. So I just want them to be able to have an opportunity to, as Betty said, digest this. So I make a motion that we table this.
July 18th.
Yes.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Fawcett to table until July 18th, advertised for a hearing.
I'll second that.
Have a second from Commissioner Nix. Discussion.
I want to make a comment. It was brought up before when we tabled something, and I just saw a comment, the fact that there's an attempt, perceived that this board is tabling something in order to push it down and get few people here. That is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that there's enough clarity and enough opportunity for you to be able to give feedback to the board. And so it's nowhere near an attempt to shift anything beyond where we're at today, other than the fact that we want the citizens to have enough input on a project.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved to be tabled until July 18th with the advertisement of a second hearing. Thank you. They won't go far.
You go to the car, they come back.
Left the keys. They'll be back. All right.
David, will you grab these keys so he doesn't come in? Thank you, sir.
What am I doing?
Get those
Keys, I think
keys
that's
off.
Jim's
You gotta
keys.
get Jim's keys. He's the one who spoke, other than James.
It's a laser point. Oh, no, that's the,
Oh, not keys.
I'm sorry, I don't see the keys. Okay.
Okay.
thank you, David.
You're welcome.
All right, we move on. Everybody come back to order, we move on. Next up, we have ZA 1906, PR Acquisitions LLC request a residential plan, community master plan and zoning condition update for tax mountain parcel 107-013 pursuant to zoning case ZA 06-10. James.
Thank you, Chairman. As you said, PR Acquisitions is looking to amend their, having master update to this site over on Harry Sosby, and the corner of Harry Sosby and Lumpkin Campground. What they're looking to do is not change any of the density, but reconfigure the units that were already previously approved into a different formation, better term. They're also looking to redirect the road to tee up to Lee Castleberry. And like I said, no change to the current density. They're updating the site plan, which you have before you, and just change some of the few stipulations and update them based on the fact that now they have water and sewer out there, which previously they did before, and they had to account for those. I'd like to, if you have any questions for me, I'd like to turn it over and let him go through the stipulations.
Questions for Jameson? Is that present? Come on up. Just for clarity for the general public, this is, as he said, a master plan change. We're not changing the density. This was something that was actually approved in 2006, 338 homes. So it's not like the board's looking at approving something for 338 homes. It's already been done. This is a master plan update to actually, hopefully, improve what's already been approved. So, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Michael Miller. I'm with Piedmont Residential, 285 Parkway 575, Woodstock, Georgia. Jameson hit the high notes, and you repeated that, Chairman, but at the end of the day, there were 17 conditions on the original zoning in 2006. That zoning was based on this site having a private wastewater treatment facility, which is no longer necessary. It also had some conditions about making some improvements to Harry Sosby Road as it currently exists. What we're asking for is to revise those conditions, make them the ones that are no longer relevant go away about wastewater treatment. And we are also proposing to, at our cost, realign Harry Sosby Road, tie it into the planned traffic circle at that intersection, and which will do away with the existing dangerous set up at Harry Sosby and Lumpkin Campground. Be glad to go through any questions on the individual modifications. Also have a site plan if anybody needs to refer to it.
Jameson, if you would, just, anybody got any questions for the outfit at the moment? We may have some in a minute, sir. Jameson, if you would, just for the benefit of the general public, let's kind of go over the stipulations that were proposed.
Okay. Excuse me, may I? I'm sorry. I've got one extremely important thing. I apologize for that. Coming out of the Planning Commission, there was a discussion at the Planning Commission about a neighbor had a question about possibly having a fence on the property. Since then, we have met with that neighbor and we've reached a private agreement about a fence along their boundary. And I just wanted to get that on public record, that we have entered that agreement with them and we will perform on it. We good? All right.
All right. So, James, I know there's a lot, but just so that everybody will have a full understanding, I'd like to go through each one of these stipulations. You have that, sir?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
All right, stipulation 1, all homes or units within the development shall be required to be members of the homeowner association, which will collect dues for continued maintenance for the properties and landscaping. There is no change to number 1, no changes. Number 2 is the required minimum heating square footage for homes within the development as followed. And there's laid out A, active adult quad units, 800 square feet, B, attached townhome units, 1,000 square feet, and C, single-family homes, 1,000 square feet. And it's good to know there's no change there, but it's also, the only thing that is proposed is the single-family attached homes. Detached homes, thank you. Number 3, the future development tract on the western boundary of the property can only be developed as detached single-family residential to a density of no more than 2 units per acre. And the final site plan therefore shall be subject to the approval of the Board of Commissioners, which shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed. There's no change to that one, and as that stated, there's actually no development across. They don't plan on crossing that river, so there's actually no development on that side of the property. Stipulation number 4, before any sewer treatment plant or field may be erected on the subject property, the Dawson County Board of Commissioners shall be given the right to review and approval of the plans and specifications, therefore which approval shall be unreasonably withheld or delayed. That one is going to be deleted. There's no water needed since they have water and sewer. Stipulation 5, variance to allow density greater than 1 unit per acre. There's no change to that stipulation. Stipulation 6, phasing to allow a maximum of 125 homes per year. That one is to be deleted. It's no longer needed for the construction of the private sewer facility. Number 7, PEC will contribute $25,000 for the improvement along the property's frontage on Harris-Sosby Road. They're going to delete that one, and it's replaced with the obligation to construct and realign the Harris-Sosby and improvements to Lumpkin Campground based on a future condition number 18. Number 8, density reduction from 403 total units to 338 single-family units and a 2-acre commercial corner at the intersection of Harris-Sosby and Lumpkin Campground. Commercial square footage not to exceed 25,000 square feet. There is no change. There's no change to that one. The density reduction on that one was actually it was approved, I believe it started in 1997, and then it was redone in 2006, and the density was actually lowered on that point. Stipulation number 9, with the exception of entrances, utility crossings, and the planting of additional trees and shrubs, the developer will commit to a 50-foot undisturbed buffer and a setback along the entire perimeter of the property, which shall be a tree protection zone, except that the buffer shall be 100 feet wide along the extreme western boundary of the property, next to the adjacent agricultural lands that adjoin the future development tract, so long as the same continues to be zoned agricultural, provided that within the outermost portion of said 50-foot buffer within the 2-acre commercial tract, there shall be a 25-foot landscape buffer which shall be planted, burned, and/or fenced where necessary to fill gaps in the existing plant and tree material, so as to provide visual screening of a height of at least 6 feet around the perimeter of the property. Provide that if any fencing is used, it shall be erected at least 10 feet inside the perimeter of the property. And that is to be revised as follows. The following buffer shall be required. Northern boundary, 50-foot buffer, which may be disturbed and replanted. Southern boundaries, a 50-foot buffer, which may be disturbed, and replanted. the extreme westernmost boundary, 100-foot undisturbed buffer so long as the adjoining property continues to be rezoned agricultural. Therefore, a 50-foot buffer which may be disturbed and replanted. Commercial property, 50-foot buffer along the boundary adjoining any residential zone property which may be disturbed and replanted, including the the requirement that upon the development of the commercial property, the outermost 25-foot of said buffer shall be a landscape buffer and shall be planted, bermed, and or fenced with the necessary to fill gaps in the existing plant and tree material as to provide a visual screening to the height of at least 6 feet around the perimeter of the property. Provide that if any fencing is used, it shall be erected at least 10 feet inside the perimeter of the property. And the following shall be allowed with any and all of the above buffers: entrances, utility crossings, including stormwater and sanitary sewer, planting of additional trees and shrubs. Number 10, development of a package plant to serve this and all adjacent developments in size with the capacity to serve basin and subject to Dawson County or county review and specifications offered by the applicant. That one is going to be deleted. It is no longer needed due to water and sewer. Stipulation 11, appropriate deceleration lanes provided at the proposed residential entrance on Lumpkin Campground and a turn lane for the intersection of Harry Sosby and Lumpkin Campground Road. Number 11 is also to be deleted and it will be replaced with the condition 18. Condition 12, at the time of development of the commercial parcel, a new traffic impact model to be completed for the entire plan with recommendations and improvements. It is also going to be encompassed in condition 18. Condition 13, the commercial parcel is to be limited to no more than 25,000 square feet offered by the applicant. That one, that was 13, right? Yeah. Sorry. No change to that one. Stipulation 14, all prior stipulations for zoning and those included in the May 16, 2006 letter to be as follows. We insert except as modified by these conditions at the beginning of the condition. 15, provide substreets for interconnectivity to undeveloped adjacent properties, including on the northern side of the development on both east and west sides of the creek. Connecting shall be coordinated and agreed upon between both landowners and shall be constructed with the kind of phase of the development. That one is to be deleted based on the development subsequent to the original zoning. Number 16, development shall conform to all applicable items in the Georgia 400 guidelines. We would like to insert the word commercial at the beginning of that condition. Number 17, development shall conform to all requirements from North Metro Water Planning District. And we're going to delete that one based on the water sewer. And the new condition to be added is condition 18. In accordance with the plans to be hereby approved by the county, the developer shall construct a new road which shall replace Harry Sosby Road beginning at the westernmost corner of the subject property along Harry Sosby and continuing to a to-be-constructed roundabout at the intersection of Lumpkin Campground and Lee Castleberry Road as follows. The developer shall pay for the design of both the realignment of Harry Sosby and the future roundabout and shall deliver construction to the plans to the county for a roundabout at no later than the time that we decide. Such plan shall clearly delineate the limits of construction of the roundabout. The developer shall contribute at no cost to the county a requirement right of way of which the current owned by developer and which is required for the proposed improvements. The developer shall be responsible for funding and constructing the realigned portion of Harry Sosby Road in conjunction with the development of the residential portion of the property which may occur subsequent to construction of the roundabout by the county. The county shall be responsible for funding and constructing the roundabout. If the realignment of Harry Sosby occurs prior to the construction of the roundabout, the developer shall connect and realign Harry Sosby Road to Lumpkin Campground so as to form full intersections with Lee Castleberry Road. In such case, the developer shall be required to construct any decel or turn lanes along Harry Sosby Road or Lumpkin Campground Road, nor any signalization for such intersection.
Shall not. I think you said shall.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Shall not be required to construct any decel lanes.
And that's because they're putting it in.
That's because, yeah, that's essentially because we don't want to have to tear up what's already going out there. The design of the realigned Harry Sosby shall only require right turn decel lanes into any entrance of the proposed development within the property.
Thank you, sir. Providing that clarification for the general public. Any questions of Jameson in reference to those stipulation changes? And updates?
I'm sorry. From a road standpoint, and roundabout standpoint, David, you've been involved in this, and the design works well with the future plans for Lumpkin Campground?
Yes, sir, Commissioner, we've met on this many, many times, so this is not something that was just discussed last night and decided this morning. Yes, it is, and we also know that the current alignment of Harry Sosby and Lumpkin Campground dictates improvements. And we know improvements are necessary there, which really started this conversation of the roundabout and the opportunity to get that roundabout designed, and then we then farmed the construction of it came about through this project.
Other questions?
Jameson, do we know anything about the commercial, what is going to be?
There are no plans for the commercial at the moment. The commercial is actually very limited in its space the way they have it, but there are no plans at this moment.
Will it be built when? Last? First?
I thought it had to be built first, does it not? It
Not
doesn't?
stipulated for that.
Okay.
Wasn't stipulated for that in 2006. When it was actually zoned.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick, there was a fill in the blank there about the design for the roundabout plans. We're comfortable with the July 1st of this year. Those plans are completed and ready for my review now. So if we add July 1st, we will be in compliance with it.
That was my other question. Why was that going?
Any other questions for David or James? Thank you, gentlemen. All right, this time I will open this hearing from ZA 1906, PR acquisition request for residential plan community master plan and zoning condition update. So this is a reference to the changes made to the master plan. So is there, remember you have 3 minutes, you have a 3-minute time limit per person. So is there anyone here to speak in favor of the master plan condition update? Anyone here speak in favor? Okay? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application or to the master plan update? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the master plan update? Okay, seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning changes as presented.
Now,
Master plan update?
Master, okay.
Changes.
This is already really a done deal from 2006.
The zoning.
It's
zoning.
The zoning.
Zoning piece of it.
Okay, so
Anytime there's
we're
a
not
master.
rezoning.
No, we're not rezoning
We're not
anything.
rezoning.
Anytime there is a master plan update, it has to come before the board for approval. And that's what you're seeing tonight. A master plan update, and you've seen the stipulation changes that are associated with that master plan update. Do we have a motion for approval of the master plan update. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion.
I do commend Public Works for working and getting this roundabout done. That is we already dealing, we got another topic down here shortly on Red Rider, and this is another development that was approved back in the day without some knowledge of what was gonna happen with that area, and there's a lot of traffic goes through there, so I think this helps safety-wise quite a bit.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, please vote. And that master plan update is approved 4-0. Next up, we have ZA 1907, Judd Hughes, requests the rezoning of tax map parcel 114022-006 and 114002-007 from RA Residential Agriculture to RFM Residential Multifamily for the proposed use of a 240-unit apartment development and associated amenities. James.
Thank you, Jeremy, once again. Judge Hughes is here as to rezone his property from RA to RMF, which is residential multifamily, and the purpose for building 240 units. His property is located on the corner, well, I guess you could say around the corner of Dawson Forest and 53. It's located, it's completely around the boat storage places there. He's looking to rezone only 40 acres of that, which would, according to our land use resolution, is the 240 apartments. The planning commission recommended approval of this rezoning. The DRI that came back pointed out two different things. One, which we will address in our stipulations regarding the traffic flow, and the other is really based on the detention in the water pond, which we will solve through our engineering process if this proceeds. So as far as the GMRC is concerned and the DRI, there's really no concern on their portion. The stipulations that we would like to offer, and I promise I won't read these, they're not nearly as long as the previous rezoning, but one, the property shall be developed as a gated community. Two, the entrance along Dawson Forest Road is to include a minimum of 100 feet of roadway for the development and interconnectivity of surrounding parcels. That is basically to ensure that the future parcels that will come up front that are shown on the site plan have that interconnectivity aspect that is pointed out in both our land use resolution and our 400 corridor ordinance, and it's also echoed in our comprehensive plan.
Quick question, 100 feet is talking about how, 100 feet is how far it is away from the road?
Yes, sir.
First curb cut's 100 feet. The developer shall construct a deceleration lane traveling eastbound on Dawson Forest Road prior to the issuance of a first certificate of occupancy. The developer shall, stipulation 4, the developer shall improve Dawson Forest Road to include a dedicated shall dedicate a right-hand passing lane. I apologize, let me start that one over. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied. The developer shall improve Dawson Forest Road to include a right-hand passing lane prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy. And both of those are prior to the first CO, allow them to keep on construction, but before they start actually leasing, renting units in there, they're gonna have those things to help with the traffic flow. And the last stipulation, number 5, is the developers to provide $250,000 toward the intersection improvement of the Dawson Forest and Highway 53 before the issuance of a building permit on the property. And I will entertain any questions that the board has.
Questions for Jameson?
Can you once again clarify that number 5?
Maybe Dave can clarify that better.
Yeah.
David, if you clarify what in the plan there, what's going to happen one way or the other in reference to that intersection?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Gaines, I'll attempt to. We've worked with DOT for quite some time now on that intersection and intersection improvements at State Route 53 and Dawson Forest Road. They have gone through their intersection analysis, and it is based solely on safety concerns. And then one of the challenges is the skew of Thompson Creek Park Road. So they are, the process is moving forward with constructing a roundabout at that intersection. DOT wants to do this as part of quick response. They're capped at $250,000. And as such, the developer sees the need and the value to have that safety improvement at that intersection and contribute. And then the plan is in the discussion that county manager and myself just recently have talked to the new district engineer, has also committed to that, working together and getting that project done. So I hope that answers your question, but DOT is moving that process forward. Currently, completely separate of this project here.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Other questions for James? The applicant present. Come on up. Tell us what you'd like to do.
Good evening. Brian Metzler, Eastwood Valley in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the co-owner alongside a business partner, Graham Carpenter, of a multifamily investment and development platform. Over the last 15 years, we've developed 42 apartment communities throughout the Southeast, a lot of which are here in Atlanta. We're really excited about this project we're planning here in Dawson County. We are presently under contract with the Hughes family to purchase a 40-acre tract. Judd Hughes is here today. He is our applicant, and I am the developer under contract with him. As Jameson mentioned, we're looking to rezone from RA to RMF. We have completed a slide deck to kind of walk through this project. Kristen, I get a little help from you as we move through this. I think the commissioners have that slide deck. So if you would just move to slide 2, so we can see the general area.
Would you like me to move it, or do you want to?
I'm happy to, yeah.
Okay, you have it's right there on the podium.
Okay. So here's the general area. As Jameson mentioned, we're at the southwest corner of State Route 53 and Dawson Forest Road. The site wraps the boat storage facility, the 40-acre site. Our site plan is included here. The site plan notes 10 buildings of 24 units per building. We have a amenity building of approximately 4,000 square feet with a club room with a kitchen and bar, a fitness center, and a leasing facility. All of that will spill out onto a resort-style pool, which you can see just south of the clubhouse. I don't know if I have a pointer here. We are planning a lot of open space and green space. This is a lower intensity apartment development than most you see here in Atlanta and most that I've been involved with in the past. And so that's great in that it allows for a lot of open space. You see pocket parks here in between the buildings.
Percent of green
Chris,
space,
our
open space.
I think we're well over 50%.
over 50% of green space.
They were well over the minimum recommendation.
But how well over?
Is the minimum 50%?
No.
30.
Yes. The minimum is 30, we're over 50.
That's correct. On the next slide here, we have a rendering of our proposed project. So this is a 50-year or 40-year architectural shingle. We have cedar shake there above the balconies. In brown, we have a hardy panel, which has a floor and batten look. You can see in the dark green here. We are showing stone on the bottom of the building. We are showing a gray hardy here on this rendering. You can see two-story product. This is very different than the project behind the Publix, which is 3- and 4-story product. That 3- and 4-story product has internal breezeways and 2 stairways into where the units are accessed. We think that this project is unique and architecturally more interesting by avoiding the breezeways and the stairwells. So all
Nothing
units.
taller than 2 stories.
No, every building is 2 stories.
Okay.
And so the top of roof line will be 35 feet, midpoint on the roof line will be 27, 28 feet. So this height is very consistent with a 2-story home.
I guess the way that land lays, the road elevation is somewhat higher, if I recall, so you're not looking up at them, you're almost looking even.
Yeah, there's I don't know about how much fall there is
About
there.
30 feet over the entire property, but that's over 1,000 feet. It's fairly gradual.
So all units will be direct access. So if you live on the 2nd floor, you'll walk into your unit and an entry foyer and up a carpeted step into your unit. The fire department views this as favorable versus some of the other apartment development they've seen in the county and other places. This is a second rendering here, a second color combination that we're proposing. Very similar to the first, the difference being the board and batten is the burgundy color versus the navy, or the green color. I've included here a couple of pictures of a project that I developed at the southwest corner of Encore Parkway and West Side Parkway, just off 400 on the north side of the Topgolf facility that was there. It's called Echo at North Point, and the city of Alpharetta was the jurisdiction there. And so this is evident. This is a look at what we plan to do on the interiors. So you see hard surface countertops, 42-inch high-quality cabinets. We have a vinyl plank flooring throughout the unit, with the exception of the bedrooms, which are carpeted. The wet areas will also have this vinyl flooring that you see here. We have very high-quality plumbing and lighting fixtures. So this is a condo quality interior, as we say. Here's another look at the kitchen, the project Echo that we developed. So here's a quick zoning summary. Jameson went through this. Current zoning is RA. We're seeking RMF, 6 units to the acre. There are, I've listed quite a few different other uses that would be allowable under future land use in this general area. We feel that this project represents a great transition as you have your commercial uses here along Georgia 400 and you move east. You have a lot of higher quality single family on the east side of State Road 53. And so we think that this project, and 2-story, no greater than 35 feet in height, represents a great transition as you're moving from your commercial corridor east toward your more residential area. We are in the process of discussing a few variance requests that are minor in nature, viewed favorably by the planning department. So if this were approved today, we would sit in front of the planning commission for a public hearing on these variance requests. That would be on July 16th. So our partnership is planning to own this project for the long term. So we're keeping that in mind as we construct the project. We're going to have an institutional quality management structure in place on this that requires reserves for maintenance and improvements. We will have 4 full-time property management personnel on the project at all times during the day. And I expect 1 or 2, maybe 3 of those employees to actually live on site. Talk a little bit about rental rates. It's a question that's come up. The project behind the Publix is called the Crossings at Dawsonville. and I've listed here, it might be hard for you guys to see, I've listed their rental rates. They charge an additional $50 for washer dryer rental. And so when you add that and their one bedrooms are renting a little better than $1,200 a month. Their two bedrooms are renting right at $1,500 a month. While their three bedrooms are renting at just right at $1,700 a month. You can see how their unit mix is a little more, a significantly less one bedrooms and a lot more three bedrooms when compared to ours. We expect that our rental rates will exceed those of the crossings at Dawsonville. We think this two-story product, direct entry, the quality of the exterior and interior, and the environment we're going to create with a lot of green space, open space, will be very well received.
Can you quickly expound upon your unit mix and what your target market is? I mean, you're obviously a little different than what their target market is with the three, as you pointed out, but you're heavily on the one.
Yeah.
Can you expound upon that?
Sure. We expect young professionals in this building as the majority of the residents. So these are going to be folks that are working along the Georgia 400 corridor. These are the millennials. These are the baby boomer students, and we're seeing them wait longer to marry, longer to have kids. We're seeing them change jobs more frequently, and we're seeing them a lot slower to home purchase. And so those folks are the target. We think we'll get a lot of folks that will move here with the hopes or even the immediate plans to buy a house in Dawson County. We also think that we're going to get some empty nesters and retirees. And so we think of the folks that have the big house that are looking for something with lower maintenance, where they can call our staff when they need a light bulb change or the washer dryer isn't working. And they're looking for as we call it, lock and leave lifestyle, where they can kind of simplify things.
Out of curiosity, in your marketing research, did you take into consideration any of the medical space that's going in at the end of 400?
We think nurses, doctors, interns are going to be huge. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of demand for them. We'll probably run some kind of specials with area hospitals. We've got two big hospitals, one big one going in about 10 miles to the north that will come online about the same time as this project. Well, it should be a big community driver as well as Northside coming. And we hear Northside is looking to expand, looking for another big track along the 400 corridor. A couple quick points on demand. Inside a 5-mile radius, we expect 4,400 additional people over the next 5 years. We typically see about 33% of folks are renters versus homeowners. And so over that 5-year period, inside a 5-mile radius, we expect about 1,400 units worth of demand for rental. So that's about 285 units of annual demand for apartments inside a 5-mile radius here. When we talk to the folks, the leasing staff at the crossings at Dawsonville, again, this is the project behind the Publix. They opened their leasing center the first week of May, and they have 50 leases as of early June. So they've had really, really strong demand out of the gate. And as I noted on a couple slides previously, they were getting exceptional rental rates. The leasing at the Falls at Forsyth, about 4 miles to the south of this site, started in September of 2018, and they've achieved a good velocity of 22 units a month. So we're seeing good demand out here for higher quality rental product. A couple things from the 2018 comprehensive plan. The number one response on where residential growth should occur inside the county at 42% was along the Georgia 400 corridor here. And, it's noteworthy that the protection of forest, wildlife, water resources, all stuff we're going to talk about this evening, is very important to the respondents. And so that's something we think we're doing a really, really good job of here with this lower density product. I have our traffic engineer, Bill Lemire from A&R Engineering here today with us. We were not requested at the Planning Commission hearing to do a traffic study, but we thought that would be a good idea and helpful idea. And so Abdul and his group have done all the traffic, done a lot of the big traffic work here in town. They did all the traffic analysis for the Dawson Crossroads Retail Project as well as the Dawson Marketplace Project. Abdul's here to answer questions if necessary. He took a look at our project delivery date, approximately 18 months in the future. We have about 6 more months of a little less than a planning, and then a 12 months to first deliveries and a 16-month total construction timeline. So he took into account the additional traffic at rates consistent with the past years of annual increases, as well as the impact of our 240-unit project. And he looked at State Route 53, Dawson Forest Road, and Georgia. His study did not come up with traffic improvements. That has been a big topic of discussion to date on this project. And we understand there have been a lot of concerns about the State Road 53 and Dawson Forest intersection. The amount of traffic, the left turn times, particularly from westbound traffic on Thompson Creek Road. And there are significant safety concerns with the way that intersection lays out. We are excited to offer a very significant contribution towards the roundabout that GDOT and Dawson County are contemplating at that intersection and the improvement of that intersection. We are also willing to make the intersection improvements that Jameson suggested at our entrance in Dawson Forest Road. Couple more slides here, if you guys would just bear with us. We have talked to Dr. Dana Gibbs about Dawson County schools. While we expect young professionals and retirees, we do think we'll get some families, but not many. We do not have many 3-bedrooms. We have 10 3-bedrooms planned. So we don't expect much burden on the school system from our project. It is interesting to note that the Dawson County school system is running at 70% capacity, which is a testament to good planning, because that's not often the case in places that are growing now. I'm going to turn it over here just real briefly to our civil engineer, Chris Harrell, who's going to talk to us a little bit about water quality, open space. After I just want to mention on life safety, we talked about the 2-story product. We've met with Danny Thompson and Jeff Bailey, and they appreciate the lower density 2-story product. That the Kent County is certainly better suited to serve that type of project. And we're happy to accommodate a couple of requests that they made after our meeting. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you real quickly.
Thanks, Brian. Chairman, council members, my name is Chris Harrell. I'm with Summit Engineering Consultants in Alpharetta, and I'm the civil engineer for the project. And I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details. I'll hit the highlights. But basically, we have really, as far as stormwater goes on this site and any site, 2 responsibilities. The first one comes during construction, and that's with sediment and erosion control. We are adjacent to a tributary that feeds directly into the lake, and so it's extremely sensitive, and it's extremely important that we manage our sediment and erosion control during construction. I did meet with Brian Young, who manages your stormwater and sediment erosion control reviews and management, and he agreed that the right way to do this during construction is not to kind of count on one facility, run it all in one little pond and hope it works. It's really to create a treatment as you go. In other words, if the erosion is occurring on a slope that's up the hill, you catch it there. You don't wait till it goes to the pond. We're lucky, I'm lucky, my job is relatively easy on this site because, as we mentioned, the topography is pretty moderate. We don't have any real severe steep slopes like our neighbors had to deal with at the crossings. We really have a general slope that slopes down toward the floodplain and toward the creek. We're not proposing, by the way, any modifications to any of the floodplain. We will create a base flood elevation study and make sure that all the homes are well above any base flood elevation that's computed. And so that's really sediment and erosion control. And the second is, after construction, once everything is stabilized, we want to make sure that the water quality leaving the site and any downstream erosion or things like that are taken care of. And that's really the next slide, if you will, which is where we get into water quality and stormwater retention and or detention. And again, what we're going to do is we're able, with this kind of density, to use some low impact design features where we can create what we call a treatment train, if you will. Again, similar to sediment erosion control, for water quality purposes, if you can discharge the water and allow it to run over some grass, instead of just putting it directly into a pipe or right into a parking lot or something like that, then you get a little bit of treatment. And if you provide a pre-treatment, which we've talked about, either in a forebay before the pond or in a proprietary system that settles out solids and removes suspended solids, and then go to your stormwater detention facility, then again, it makes it a lot easier. So that, and it's much more effective. So as far as water quality goes, we've mentioned a few of those things that we've agreed that we will perform. Stormwater detention, the code changed really about 10 years ago. It really has only been being enforced for the last 5 or 6 years. But your code adopts the state code, which is a fairly robust detention, and it's much more of a staged stormwater detention than it used to be. It used to be we just worried about the really big storms. But now what we do is we've got these 3 or 4 different iterations. And what we learned is that the more frequent storms, the really big thunderstorms, or even the 3 to 4 to 5 inch rains that you might get once a year in a small basin like this, are the ones that cause most of the erosion in the downstream channels. So what we actually do is we detain those for a 24-hour period. So an event, that a big thunderstorm or something that might last 3 or 4 hours, is actually held in the pond for 24 hours. And so you've got basically a tennis ball size outlet that is letting the water trickle out, and you build a lot of water up in these storage facilities. And so that's what we're doing. And that's what we call channel protection. And that's really about half the volume in your pond, to be honest with you. Then we provide detention, which is where we slow all the water down for all the larger storms, the 25-year event, the big hurricane that might sit on us, for a couple of days. And then overbank protection, which again is the 100-year recurring storm, where we again make sure that none of the facilities fail. We make sure that we've got an emergency overflow outlet and things like that. Number 3 there is your downstream analysis. We actually look at our site, our 40-acre site, and again, my job's pretty easy here because Lake Lanier is pretty close downstream. We'll study from our site to the lake, and we'll study all the nooks and crannies and any place where there might be a restriction, and we'll make sure that when we design the detention facility that no additional flows might coincide with a point when that location might have a big flood. So we do what we call a downstream analysis. to the point where our site would only be 10% of the basin. So again, we will exceed all of these. Really, probably the 50 and the 100-year thing we probably won't exceed by much. But the others, the smaller storms will exceed by a great bit. So we have talked to Brian about sediment and erosion control especially, and about some other additional things that we're willing to incorporate that are not just in the state manual, and have agreed to implement those during construction. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to help answer them. Anyway, as far as this site goes, we really have some good opportunities.
Who manages this process for you? Do you have a dedicated erosion control specialist that's coming in on a regular basis, or is it an employee of y'all's, or how does that work?
Yes, sir. Actually, during construction, there is a person on site every day, and is required to be, every day, who holds a certification with the state and who inspects the sediment and erosion control measures every day, makes recommendations if any of them need to be maintained, and that sort of thing. There's also monitoring of turbidity levels, the soil, anything that might be in the water, and that monitoring is required by the state to be reported after certain rainfall events. So we actually will have constant 24-hour monitors in those in our discharge points. So that actually gets reported. And those daily logs are kept on site in the job trailer for inspection at any time.
Yeah, no, that's historically with some of those developments that have happened around there. The public
Yes, sir.
and all that. There was a lot of sediment that was perceived to have gotten in the.
Yes, sir.
I'm very sensitive to that.
I actually will perform an inspection of the initial sediment and erosion control measures. So it's not an employee of the contractor, it's not an employee of Penland. It's actually the design engineer's responsibility. So I actually will perform those initial inspections to make certain they're installed correctly.
Other questions?
Just two other things, real quickly. One of the questions that's come up is regarding pool size, and we understand from maybe another project in the county that there's concerns about how the pools are sized here. There are state health departments that govern the pool regulations, but they do not govern how large a pool is. And so I've talked to our landscape architect about, for a 240 unit project, what is appropriate here? And he said, he suggested at a minimum a 30 by 50 foot pool, which is 1,500 square feet of surface area, would be appropriate for a project of 240 units. The pool deck will be about 4x the size of the actual pool surface area. So just wanted to add that. And then on the special stipulations, the applicant and Himmler are good with all of those suggestions. We would make one suggestion to stipulation number 2 regarding the interconnectivity. That be for the land to the east of our entry drive. Look at our site plan. Providing a driveway for that land that's being retained by the seller, driveway apron for the land on the east side of our entry drives. There's, I think, one clarification that needs to be made to that stipulation, if that would be acceptable.
So the west side, I think, for clarification, and I asked the question, but what I've heard referred to as the throat depth is 100 feet coming in before there's a curb cut to go either to your parking or to the potential, or the future other parcels that are there. So we're not having other curb cuts on Dawson Forest, other than the left side, the east side.
That's right.
And west side, yes, sorry.
Yes, sir.
One other clarification, the entrance exit that's on 53, I'm not sure we spoke to that. my understanding, it's exit only, is that correct?
The fire department wants that to be available for emergency ingress and egress, and they're okay with anything in a Knox box would be acceptable. We've talked to David McKee about this, and if GDOT would allow, we'd like to do an exit only onto 53. So we will have a vehicular gate at that, right there at that entrance, or exit only rather, and then we'll also have a vehicular gate as you get past the clubhouse on the entrance off Dawson Forest Road. So exit only in the event that GDOT approves it.
Right. And if they don't approve it, then you
It's
still have an emergency entrance there for
Emergency
requirements
access
of
only.
our. Okay.
Yep. That's all I have, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir. We may have some more in a minute. All right, so this time I'll open up this hearing on ZA 1907. Rezoning request from RA to RMF for the purpose of a 240 unit apartment development and associated amenities. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Come on up, sir. Give us your name and your address, and please sign the book there, and you have 3 minutes when you start to speak.
Thanks for having me. My name's Dave Pollock. My wife and I have lived in Chestatee subdivision for over 10 years. It was a quiet, up country subdivision. And since that time, we know what growth has occurred in the county. And thanks to everybody here, it's been quality, controlled growth. And I'm here today to say that I support Brian Metzler and his company with this quality piece of property that they propose to build in our county. The quality development brings quality individuals and quality families that who knows may stay here someday and grow their families as well. But I also want to say that secondary, but most importantly, is I know Brian Metzler since he was 7 years old. His son and my son have been friends forever, close friends. His success is based on his character, his quality, and his success has carried him for 40 years, I guess it's not good, right? So if he commits to a safety circle and making a financial commitment on a roundabout, you can assure it will be done. If he commits to the runoff and putting money into that runoff and to your satisfaction, I'm sure you would have to answer to me if you didn't. So, please consider that when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Come on up, sir. Give us your name and your address.
My name is John Mock. I live at 151 Sundown Way, Dawsonville.
Fill that in for us, please.
I'm in favor of this because I know something's going to be built there at some point in time, and I think this is probably as good as anything. I live in this area. Some of you guys know me just because I've been involved for the last 3 years with the stormwater runoff that has been coming into Lake Lanier from the publics, from the crossings, from the oil change, from the current development that's going on at Dawson Forest and 400. It's not a according to the way that the state and the city should be doing it. The state, it's totally against the way the state says it should be done. And time after time, I've seen where the developers come in, they're anxious to get started, they start building, excavating, which is against the rules. You're supposed to have your temporary retention pond in before you start the excavation. Very rarely, I saw that at Publix, but their pond wound up breaching and they never repaired it until after months later. And the water underneath my boat dock, when I moved in here 16 years ago, there was 14 feet of water. There's only 12 feet of water there today. And all that has to do with this construction that's been going on at 400 Dawson Forks Road, the oil change, the apartments. So I want a commitment out of these people that before they do excavation, that they're going to have their temporary retention ponds in place. And I'm hearing him saying that he wants to have them several, that's fine. But they need to be at low elevation, they don't need to be at high elevation, and they need to be in there before they start turning that dirt over. Provided they do that, I don't think there'll be any problems out of them, because that's the way the rules are designed by the state, and Dawson County's code says that you go less than the state codes. And if they're done according to the state and the city codes or county codes, there shouldn't be any problem, and I'm in favor of it if they do that. Like I say, something's gonna come in there before it's over with. This looks like as good as anything, but, you know, the bottom line is, I just want to, as a citizen and somebody who owns property, and not only myself, but probably the 30 neighbors that are affected by that same thing who live on Lake here, it's awful. I can show you a picture right now. If you go to 53, with Lake Lanier goes underneath 53, that core property is orange, pumpkin. And it's like that every time we have a big rain or a little rain, and it's been that way ever since Bucker started. So, thank you very much. God do support this.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone else speak in favor of the application? Okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here speak in opposition? Come on up, sir. Give us your name and your address.
Please, Chairman and the Commissioners, my name is Paul Hoffman. I live at 61 Fort, which is on the east side of 53 in a very shallow cove. And my concern, of course, is with settlement deposits and not necessarily this year or next year, but 5 years from now and 10 years from now, when these folks are long gone, when their detention ponds have filled up with sediment themselves, and there's no one there to manage them, and runoff of sediment builds up and builds up. That's a primary concern. I know one of my neighbors is here to speak to that more openly and more definitively than I, but we would ask that some sort of bond be required so that 10 years from now, when their best efforts fail, through no fault of their own, but despite what he said about 3 to 5 inch downpours once a year, I think, look, recent history shows that we have a lot more than that. I also have a concern that this is inconsistent with the land use map. We need some light industrial in this county. Where our young folks want to work. This apartment complex is going to provide jobs. The counter proposals he suggested about other developments that might occur there, I noticed he did none of those were light industrial places. Light industrial is not going to add to traffic like this would. The state really has no intention of widening 53 anytime in the near future. It's nowhere on their agenda. I'm also concerned about just the number of apartments that have been built in immediate environs this location. I bought my lake house in 2008, just retired last year, and lived in Gwinnett County. And we're asking not to make the same mistakes Gwinnett County has made. Apartments, when they're built just for growth, because of growth. They look brand spanking new, they look shiny, they look nice. When you have 5 or 6 different apartment complexes built all within a span of a couple of years, they only have a lifespan of about 20 years. What happened? What are they gonna look like in 20 years when we have about 5 different apartment complexes immediately around this area? And they're all on a decline. I think we have a responsibility to think about those people. I might not be here, I'm 67 years old. Some of you may not be here. But our children and our grandchildren are gonna be here, and they're gonna be worried about all the apartment complexes that are gonna have a shelf life, and they're all gonna deteriorate at the same time. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else here speak in opposition? Come on up. Give us your name and your address, please.
Hey, my name's Kevin Dunn, I live at 57 Sundown Way. I'm Paul Hoffman's neighbors. I am a real estate broker, and I work with Jacobs Engineering, and we staff cities. So I've been working in the city of Johns Creek for the last 13 years. So I'm familiar, with this process and water quality. And water quality is my main concern. I live directly downstream, from Thompson Creek, and from being involved with governments. Silt fencing fails, and some of the state requirements are pretty ridiculous. For instance, if you have a big rain and you have a failure of the erosion control devices, they've got up to 7 days to fix the issue. During that time frame, the lake in our code could be drastically impacted. Like the other gentleman said, we've already lost approximately 2 feet in our code. Give you a quick story. I've got my son's 15 last year. I'm trying to raise kids that are similar to how I was raised in the 1980s. Get out from behind the devices, and so I let them roam and play in the code. And he took the paddle boat, went through the culvert to the swampy area to go turtle hunting, just to catch and observe. And he jumped out of the paddle boat and sunk all the way up to his waist in silt. So that swamp on the right-hand side of 53 has been drastically impacted by all of the development that has occurred. So I've got some requests, and some of the requests have already been addressed by the developer, which I am grateful for. But I'm recommending in addition to the sediment basins, that they are saying that they will install a silt curtain installed at the creek. One thing I did note is they did not contact the Army Corps of Engineers. They were not on the list of property owners, and they are adjacent property owners. So I want to make sure Army Corps of Engineers has been informed. Like Paul said, I'm recommending bonding of BMPs, and it would be nice to have a third-party erosion control inspector with reports made available to the public. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else here speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. It's the pleasure of the board.
I had a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Jameson, what is the green space requirement for light industrial?
That is an excellent question. Give me a second to look that one up.
No, you're fine.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure there is one. industrial. Because usually, commercial users usually try to utilize as much of their property as possible.
So, in theory, by going from a light industrial zoning to what's being requested, we're getting 50%, over 50% green space, which in theory would technically reduce the amount of runoff into neighboring creeks. And I definitely get the comments that were made, and I think a lot of them are valid for sure with the runoff. But when we look at water flows and things like that on impervious surfaces, is that a valid statement?
Absolutely. There would obviously be probably less impervious surface to a development of this type as opposed to a light industrial. And as far as stormwater runoff, we would, even if it was light industrial, we would still require them into the same, and he spoke much more intelligently than I can. I'm not the stormwater manager, which Brian is, but we require them to meet all the NPDES standards that were required in this area. It's also part of the MS4 area that is highly regulated and monitored by our current staff.
Define, and it might not be a question for you, but a question for the engineer. Can you define what a silk curtain at the creek means? And will you do that?
I'm not certain it's appropriate, because what we don't want to do is let silt in the creek. But I'd be happy to talk with the gentleman from Jacobs about why he thinks that might be appropriate. I don't want silt in the creek, and we're not allowed to provide, sedimentation in a jurisdictional water. So we'd certainly be willing to look at additional best management practices. I'm just not certain that one is appropriate.
What about
As far as the third-party inspection, yes, we'd be more than happy to agree to that. And of course, notifying the Corps is a given. We have had an environmental specialist who is looking at the jurisdictional waters on the site and will do a determination which will be verified by the Corps of Engineers. So that'll be part of our process as well. And we're going through that due diligence as we
If you don't tell the Corps, somebody else will.
That's right.
And
There's
they'll
lots
be
of
there.
inspectors out here. That's
They
right.
will
Yes,
be
ma'am.
there,
Yep.
I guarantee you. How many acres is this total? I'm not talking about for the whole. No, I thought there was more than that. You've not got 40 acres and gonna put apartments on 40 acres. I thought there was more, I thought there was a bigger tract of land than that.
So the tract of land that we are proposing is actually, you're correct, that it is actually larger than that, but the portion that is being requested to be zoned is in fact only 40 acres.
Yeah,
Of
but
that-
then how
of
many
that.
acres else does that leave out there?
That is, you might be able to answer that better than I
If
can.
you're asking how many acres we have left, so we have 268 acres there, I think, so
Okay.
228 acres.
And that's a combination of several, not just the property that this is going to be a part of he's referring to that entire area, south of Dawson Forest.
My final question for you, Jameson, is the intensity of zoning from light industrial to the proposed. Walk through what your thoughts from a planning standpoint and a planning perspective are.
Well, obviously, light industrial is going to be your most intensive use for any property, because it's going to have larger trucks coming in and out. It's going to have a larger impervious surface with more parking spaces, larger buildings, industrial. You move down from that, you move to everything that falls into light industrial also it's a trickle down effect in our land use resolution. So you immediately move down to CHB, which is most of everything along our 400 corridor. Your Publix, your Kroger's, your restaurants, things that mainly that's where people come in and out pretty consistently. Along that line, and maybe probably slightly below that, would be residential multifamily as an intense use, because you're only looking at really the higher volume traffics really in the morning time and evening time, and periodically throughout the day. So as far as an intensive use, it would be considered lower than what would be considered light industrial.
Not lied, I said that was my last question, but I have one more. This is revolving around the consideration for contribution to the roundabout. This is Dave's question. I guess this is relatively new, so what does this do? Does this escalate us up on the timeline of when that roundabout can be constructed as far as from GDOT's perspective and as far as from our perspective? And what would that timeline look like in conjunction with their build timeline?
Two answers. Would it escalate it? Yes. The answer to the second question on what is that timeline, I don't know. A typical quick response is about a 6-month process. I know a lot of folks are saying quick response, that's not so quick, but a typical GDOT project can go on for a couple of years. So we're really narrowing that process down. I will say that what that hinges on is right-of-way and funding. So we have the right-of-way there they have the right-of-way there to do that, and we've worked with property owner around there, so we have the right-of-way. So the funding, yes, speeds that up. So I don't have a timeline, but does that speed it up? Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Motions?
If you don't, I'm going to.
Seeing that this is a lighter use than what is potentially there, and I think it's going to solve a lot of our potential issues with water runoff being with its over 50% green space. I'll make a motion to approve the proposal with the stipulations that Jameson, I think there were 5 stipulations that he had. Can you read those into
Yes.
my motion, please?
Absolutely. All right. Stipulation 1, the property shall be developed as a gated community. Stipulation 2, the entrance along Dawson Forest Road is the entrance along Dawson Forest Road to include a minimum of 100 feet of the roadway for the future development and interconnectivity of surrounding parcels. Stipulation 3, the developer shall construct a deceleration lane traveling eastbound on Dawson Forest Road prior to the issue of the first CO. Stipulation 4, the developer shall improve Dawson Forest to include a right-hand passing lane prior to the issuing of its first certificate of occupancy. Stipulation 5, the developer is to provide $250,000 toward the intersection improvement of Dawson Forest and 53 before the issuance of a building permit on the property.
Okay. And I would like to add a stipulation that we have a third-party erosion control monitor to monitor, obviously, the runoff and erosion. And then I guess I can add an additional, he indicated that he would do it, but I want to make it official that they would reach out with the Army Corps of Engineers to consult with them on anything that they might ask for with the development.
Those stipulations are acceptable, with the addition on item 2,
Yeah.
which would be the interconnectivity to the parcels to the east of Arlington Drive.
Yeah, the way that stipulation reads, it would be for both the.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Kristen, can we pull up the site plan again? Just- Thank you.
Which slide it is.
One more. Two more. So that,